Cubes and cube roots are essentially the same as squares and square roots. They're powers, and the math is based on powers. So it is not multiplication, although we could do this problem with multiplication. That's one way we can do cubes. It's just like we can do multiplication with repeated addition, but it's much more convenient to do with multiplication. So we want to, although we could do this with repeated multiplication, we want to use cubes, and cubes are different math. The operation is different than multiplication. So if I want to find out the volume of this cube, I could do 2 times 2 times 2, and that gives me 8 units cubed. Okay, that's using multiplication. But really I want to use powers, and the math is different. When I apply the cube, I'm doing something different than 2 times 2 times 2. Okay, I'm going to end up with the same answer, but I'm going from an edge length of 2 to a volume of 8 cubes. Same thing here. We could do repeated multiplication. The math behind this would be just times. Okay, so 4.3 times 4.3 times 4.3, and that gives us 79.507 units cubed. Okay, this is repeated multiplication. We get the right answer, we get the correct answer, but we could also do this using cube. So if I start with an edge length of 4.3 and I cube it, we're doing something slightly different, and the math behind this is different than the math of multiplication. The math is different for exponents than it is for times. And it's really important to understand that fact. It's really hard to wrap our head around that fact. It's not easy to accept, but the math of cubes is different than multiplication. And the analogy I'll give you is the math of plus is different than times. Okay, when I add repeated addition, do repeated addition, it is addition, but it gives us the same answer as multiplication. But we never say that multiplication is the same as addition. So same thing here. This is repeated multiplication. We get the same answer as if we did powers, but the math behind, we cannot say that cubes and times are the same thing. They're different, and the math of them is going to be different, and how they behave mathematically is different as well. So one way we want to start thinking about this is, instead of repeated multiplication of length times width times height, which we can get any rectangular shape, we're getting specifically a cube shape by cubing. Okay, and we're going from the edge length of 4.3 and getting a cube area of 79.507.